You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for being here today. I'm Kirk Mona, and joining me are Rachel Gimza and Victoria Thompson. We're all naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders, just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this.
Welcome to the show, everyone. We did it. We're over 200 episodes. This is the inaugural 201. Yeah!
On to episode 300.
Right.
That's the next big round meaningless number.
Exactly. I am very excited to not super pay attention to whatever the episode numbers are anymore. All right. So it's very exciting for all of us. Now, before 200, I talked about the largest creature to ever live on planet Earth, the blue whale.
Oh, that's right. You're talking the blue whale. That was really fun.
Mm-hmm. Because we hadn't talked about it and it was wild. Well, I'm going to go the opposite of that. Let's talk about arguably the world's smallest little mammal to ever exist.
Oh, okay. I think first I was the smallest whale, but no, we're going smallest mammal, and mammals are whales. So there you go. No. Whales are mammals.
Right.
Oh boy.
Not all.
Don't get those
all
mixed up.
Mammals are whales. We are
Correct.
not whales, Kirk.
Important distinction. Thank you. Don't call someone a whale.
No, don't do that. Don't.
It's not complimentary.
No, that is pretty bad. Yeah. So today we're talking about the world's smallest mammal. We're
cool.
doing when I do have to put a little asterisk by this. This is the world's smallest mammal by body length, not necessarily by mass.
Okay.
Although it's pretty negligible between the two. I'm not going to lie.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, it's wild. Today let's talk about the Bumblebee Bat.
Oh, all right. Let's do that.
Yeah. So
what do you got on it?
It is also called Kitty's hognose bat. They live in caves in Thailand and Myanmar. So Southeast Asia primarily, which is really fascinating because in Asia there is 440 bat species found, which is about a third of the world's bat species. So that's wild that they're able to house that many bat species and have that much diversity just in one area. So I'm not even going to try on the Latin name. Actually, you know what? For funsies, I will, and it's going to be terrible. So the Kitty's hognose bat, also known as the Bumblebee Bat, the scientific name is Crassionycteris thonglongii.
Thonglongii. Probably thonglongii.
Probably. Thonglongii.
That is
awful.
I guess in Ceteris is it Crassion or Crassioniciteris thonglongii?
Victoria.
Good man, that is why.
Yeah. Well, it's been a little while since I've attempted Latin, so I'm glad that we
since you butchered the Latin,
yeah, it's
that
been
was
a while,
special.
so I'm glad we could have
These
that.
are super cute, by the way.
They're so cute. So they
Adorbs.
They are about the size, hence the name, of a large bumblebee. Oh my gosh. And they are a dark brown. They have 4 fingers. They have the stereotypical thumb on their little wings. They have these big ears, to help with echolocation, and they have a hog nose. So it looks like a pig snout, nice and pushed up. But they are very small. Brownish red in color, and their body length is about from the tip of their nose, the tip of their head, to the base of their butt is about an inch long.
Wow.
They are
That's small.
so small, and they weigh less than 2 grams,
Oh my.
which is about the same amount as 2 Skittles in your hand.
Yeah, it's also the measurement I usually use for a gram to give people a reference, because it's a cubic centimeter of water, but we don't usually carry around a cubic centimeter of water. That has no reference for us.
Right.
The jumbo size paper clips,
Mm-hmm.
those are almost exactly 1 gram. So 2 paper clips is all this animal weighs.
Yeah.
That is
so small.
ridiculous.
So about the size of a big bumblebee.
Yeah.
The main competitor, the main reason why they could be not necessarily considered the smallest mammal in the world is the Etruscan shrew. Is lighter than the bumblebee bat. Where they can weigh anywhere from 1 to 2.7 grams. Versus the bumblebee bat is a solid 2 grams, but the Etruscan Etruscan shrew is longer, which is 1.4 to 2.1 inches from its head to the base of the tail. So the bat is smaller in length, but not necessarily smaller in weight. So,
and imagine the bat has a larger wingspan as well.
Yes, considering the shrew has no wingspan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not really fair comparison, to be honest. I don't know why I said that, but
yeah, they have pretty large wings in comparison. Their wings are one wing is about 2 inches or an inch or two from body to tip. So the whole length is about 4 inches or so. They're generally pretty, just like the weirdest thing about them is how small they are and the fact that they're able to like be alive and that small. It's wild.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I looked online. There's a picture of one next to a Lego minifig. And the Lego minifig is bigger than the bat.
Yeah, there's a lot of pictures of them like on someone's thumb, and the thumb being huge.
It's nuts.
Wild. The other cool things about the bumblebee bat is they are actually able to hover, which is not something that every bat is able to do.
No.
But because of the length of their wings and how their wings are connected, they are able to hover. So they have really long like tips on the edges on their wing that allows them to be able to hover, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
Like I said, they live in limestone caves right around rivers by forests and such. There's quite a bit. There's more known about the species in Thailand than there is in Myanmar. And the amount of them in Myanmar is unknown, but the population in Thailand is actually relatively small. They're so small as well.
Yeah.
But because of that, they don't know where they're at population-wise and how healthy their populations are, which is kind of sad. Anyway. Bumblebee bats, they actually do use echolocation, and they capture their prey in the air. They mostly eat insects, so they focus on like flies and beetles. They'll even catch spiders,
Okay.
which is pretty cool. They also are able to use extremely fast echolocation calls. They can call as much as 220 times in a second, which is
Wow.
very, very fast,
Yeah.
which is good when you're trying to find something that is also flying around. And their range is about 70 to 80 kilohertz, so it's really high pitch. We definitely can't hear them.
Yeah, no. Yeah, okay.
But what's interesting is that the Thai populations have been found to have higher frequency calls than those in Myanmar. So it shows that there's like something different between the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild. I mostly just wanted to talk about these tiny, tiny little birds, Kirk. I don't have else to talk about when it comes to bumblebee
Can I ask
birds.
you a question about them?
Yes.
Why do you call them birds?
I don't know why I called them birds. Oh my gosh, they're not birds, they're bats. No!
That's my only question.
Oh my gosh, they're not birds, they're bats. Oh no.
You've been saying it this entire time.
Are you serious?
No, I'm totally messing with you.
Oh
No,
my
you said it
gosh.
once.
Oh. They're little tiny bats. I think I'm still thinking about the fact that I taught birds earlier this week, I think. And I'm just
Must
like,
be.
bats, birds. People often mistake bats as being birds.
Yeah,
It's a thing.
it's can happen.
Yep. They're wrong, but it can happen.
Correct.
Yeah. Anyway, so little bumblebee, I think I almost did it again. Little bumblebee bats. They are protected in Thailand and they're very, very cute and so tiny. And I highly recommend anyone go check out our Instagram because we're going to have a picture of them because they're really
Cute.
stinking adorable. So my sources this week was an article in Discover Magazine by Matt Hrody. I'm going to go with Bumblebee Bat, the smallest mammal in the world. I got some stuff from Wikipedia, but also from Manga Bay and Bat Conservation International. Had some great
Nice.
articles and things to be able to see where these populations and things are, which is great.
Awesome. Thank you.
We're going to take a break, and when we return, it'll be Kirk.
Welcome back to the show. I have something for you this week that I found really fascinating. It's a study that was done in Australia back in 2017, and the results were, I would say, surprising to say the least. So let me explain the setup.
Okay.
The lead researcher on this was Dr. Monica Gagliano from University of Western Australia's Centre of Evolutionary Biology at the School of Animal Biology. And she set up an experiment growing pea plants. So these are just the, ordinary garden peas like you would grow
Right.
at your house.
Well,
And-
lots of things happen with pea plants. Like that's how Linnaeus got to where he's at. So was it?
Well,
Linnaeus?
and also, no, you're probably thinking of
Mendel.
Mendel, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, pea plants, they're easy to grow, and so they've been used for a lot of things. A storied history, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
They were testing how these grow, and I got to laugh when I read this paper because it described that they built a, quote, custom designed Y maze that they planted the seeds in. And I was like,
Why?
oh, wow, that sounds interesting. And then I looked at the photos and I'm like, no, you just planted them in PVC plumbing parts you picked up at the hardware store. So I think the custom design phase of the research was actually just going to the hardware store and going, oh, yeah, this will work.
I mean, yeah.
Basically, just picture like a white a plastic PVC upside down letter Y. And the Y is filled with soil. And then the pea plant is planted in the circle at the top. And I can grow down a few inches before it has to choose, is it going to go to the left or is it going to go to the right? Because it's sending this single route down. It's only going to take one of those two paths. Now,
Right.
to be fair, they did fit some plastic pots like onto the bottom of these, and then they put clear trays under that. So I guess there was some customization. I just had to really laugh at the description of these plumbing parts as custom designed Y maze. It's like, come on, you're not fooling anybody. But I digress. Moving on, this is actually a pretty classic experimental setup, right? Like you can test out all kinds of things depending on how you change the variables in two sides of something. Sometimes it'll be done with the top part of a plant, like is it going to grow toward X, grow towards Y, something like that. But in this case, they wanted to see what direction the roots would grow. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You could test out like different soil mixes. You could test out different moisture gradients of wet to dry, different temperatures and different sides. You could really test anything you could think of in this way, and then look for a statistically significant pattern to which side the roots we're going to choose. So,
Right.
pretty basic setup, but kind of cool.
Okay.
Well, in this study, they actually changed a few different things depending on like they ran the experiment several times. But the main thing they wanted to test was sound.
Okay.
Yeah, specifically the sound of water to see if the roots would basically seek out the sound of water. And in the first experiment, what they did is they put water at the bottom of one of the two pipes. I mean, like literal, just like in this little, I said that little clear tray at the bottom, they just filled one with some water. Okay. So there was water not in the bottom of one, not water at the bottom of the other one. This is still water. It's not moving anything. It's just touching the soil at the bottom.
Right.
And not surprisingly, perhaps, the water somehow found its way, or so the roots somehow found its way to the water. And as far as I could tell, they kind of did this to make sure that there wasn't like a huge, it wasn't like one side of the tube became sopping wet. It was just a little bit of water down at the bottom, but the roots somehow were able to detect that moisture gradient and go, you know what? This is the way to go. We're going down this pipe.
Right.
8 out of 10 plants grew toward the water. Not terribly surprising,
Right.
I don't think, right?
But not
That-
bad.
Yeah, I mean, super cool that plants can detect that moisture gradient, but we go, well, plants can detect moisture. It's kind of, we would assume they can,
Mhm.
right?
I
So
would
they
hope
did the
so.
experiment again with 10 more plants, but this time they put a tube with moving water at the bottom of one pipe instead of actual water the plant could reach. This was like, I think like a little flexible, one of those little clear hoses or something like that. That kind of, it was all kind of coiled up around the bottom and kind of circling around, making a little bit of kind of noise as it kind of bubbled through there. And they tested this again. So remember, keep in mind, no moisture in the soil. So the soil in each side of this Y are the same humidity level, but 8 times out of 10, the plants still grew toward the water.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's
When you go, interesting,
uh-huh.
right?
That's significant.
Yeah. It had the same number as when the water was actually in the soil. Now, they did compensate for some things with this to make sure they're like, well, could this water circulating around the bottom be changing the temperature of that
Right.
side? Okay, good thinking there, right? So they put
Yeah.
probes in and measured, and they made sure that wasn't it. They also, sometimes the water was on the left, sometimes the water was on the right. Like they switched things up like that to make sure that it wasn't like, oh, well, all the plants were actually just growing to the right no matter what, right? So you have
Yeah.
to compensate for all those sort of variables. But when they did that, it was 8 out of 10 times it went toward the water in what they're calling a pipe, no matter what. Right?
Huh.
So it's like, well, not no matter what, but 8 out of 10 times. So
Right.
fascinating. And what's especially interesting about this, I think, is that like I said, there was no difference in the moisture. So how did the plant know
Yeah.
which pipe which side to go down?
Would they
and
be able
there-
to feel the movement in the air or anything like that?
I mean, but there was nothing in the air moving.
Huh.
Right? Because the water was in a sealed up pipe or sealed up tube. And
Oh.
the speculation is that the plants can somehow hear the sound of moving water.
Okay.
Right? And I heard about this and I'm like, what? Now, this got picked up by the media and people are like, plants can hear, like, oh my gosh, they can
Right.
hear water and stuff. And some of the reporting wasn't great on it.
Mhm.
I heard one person say, like, incorrectly sort of state that it was like, oh, one side had stagnant water and one side had moving water. And they would always prefer to go toward the moving water because that, like stagnant water can be bad and can rot roots out, and they want to move toward high water mobility soil. And it's like, that sounds great, but like, that's not what they tested. It would
Right.
literally, experiment 1 was standing water, it went toward the standing water. Experiment 2 was like moving water in a tube, and it exact same ratio, it went for that. So take some of the, take that for
Could
what
it
it
be able
is. Some of
to
the
smell the water?
reporting. Well, that's the kind of thing we have to be able to rule out, right?
Right.
Researchers, they were pretty convinced that this was sound. And so what they also tested was just playing recordings of water moving in a pipe. So they put speakers at the bottom and played either a sound of water or a control of white noise, or even just left the speakers on, but essentially like playing silence. And in all cases, and this is interesting, the plants seemed to dislike whichever route had the electronic equipment. They did not go toward just the recording of the water. And their speculation on this was that it may not be that they didn't like the sound, but rather that the speakers were creating an electromagnetic field that the plants didn't like. And they did have some equipment on hand, and they tested the strength of the electromagnetic field from the speaker, and because that's how speakers work, it's an electromagnetic field that moves a coil.
Right.
And so they're like, well, look, we were able to test that these fields were there. We don't really have a way to test like that the plants were moving away from that, but that was kind of speculation why they went toward the sound of the real water, but not the recording. Now, you've seen some problems with the design of this experiment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you brought up, you're like, could there be some other confounding factors? Like,
Yeah.
was there a smell that they're moving, some sort of pheromone
Right.
or something that was, the
Because
pipe
I feel like
had
water
some
does
smell or
have a
something.
smell, or it can.
Sure, it could even be permeating the pipe and they are picking something up, right? So these are all things that would need to be kind of tested. I will say a couple other things here. So I think I mentioned some of these, but first off, the plants only showed a preference for the side with the running water when the soil was dry. Actually, I didn't mention this yet. So when one side of a tube had like the running water in a pipe, and the other
Right.
side had actual available water, the plants always preferred the actual water side. So
Okay.
a moisture gradient is more important than an acoustic gradient, assuming the acoustic gradient is in what was causing this,
Right.
which they're claiming it is. That's their hypothesis. But they did say, look, a moisture gradient is always trumps a acoustic gradient. So when there's a lack of moisture in the soil, though, to give them a clue, they're sort of, again, their kind of hypothesis is that the plants seem to fall back on acoustic information to find that water. And an area of interest where we see this in the real world, and part of, I think, why they were doing this study, is that tree roots seem to grow toward underground water pipes, even if those pipes aren't leaking. And tree roots can cause a lot of damage. Like, there's actually been statistics on this in this research paper about like how many millions of dollars are spent each year by cities trying to fix water pipes damaged by tree roots. It's a lot. Now, some of those are because those pipes are leaking and the water
Right.
the tree is seeking out that water. But in some cases, there are pipes that are completely bone dry on the outside, but they're just wrapped up in tree roots. And it's like, how does the tree know there's moisture in there? One thought I had is like, well, is there some sort of condensation or similar effect, on or near the pipe, which I
Right.
think is a distinct possibility. But clearly in this experiment, they were testing that. There was no moisture gradient. They eliminated that. And they claim the only explanation is an acoustic gradient within the soil, that there was the sound of the water in the pipe is what the plants were reacting to. So pretty wild. The
Yeah.
headlines that this research spawned were, of course, just taking this at face value and claiming that plants can hear the sound of running water and move toward it. And the plants clearly did show a preference for moving toward the pipe with moving water. Personally, I'm not convinced that they proved 100% that it was based on sound.
Some more.
Yeah, or this acoustic gradient, as they called it. But this is a really intriguing area of study. There have been a lot of like really bad studies about like plants preferring certain kinds of music and things like that. And most of those I think are pretty bunk. This was interesting, but I also want to point out that they were only, this is a really small study. They were only testing 10 plants at a time.
Right.
And it's like, I want to see this done more than 10 times. That this wasn't just some sort of fluke or something. I'm going to put on my grain of salt until replicated t-shirt that we've talked about making.
It's a good one. I like that t-shirt.
Yeah. We do know that plants are specialists at finding water, and they likely use a number of strategies to find it. This is tantalizing. This is interesting. Again, the more we study, the more strange methods we possibly uncover. I'm very intrigued. But like so many things we cover, I'm going to give this one a more research needed tag, and hope we can circle back around a few years down the road. Maybe once this has been replicated by someone else, that'd be pretty interesting. Some grad students out there, go after this. This would be a super easy study to try to replicate based on what they were doing and their setup. So do it, publish it, replicate science. Replication is so, so, so important. If you want to read the paper, because you're thinking, you know what, I want to replicate this. Or you're like a student, like a high school student, and you want to do like a science fair project or something. Very cool. You want to read this paper. The entire paper is available online for free. Yes, love open access journals.
Love open access.
This paper is called Tuned In. Plant Roots Use Sound to Locate Water. It was in the May 2017 issue of Ecologia. It's one of the journals where it's like, instead of saying ecology, they say ecology, ecology. And this one's like ecologia, but it's, you do say the O, so it's, you say them together. So it's just ecologia, I believe.
Okay.
Why you got to spell it that way, people? You just trying to be fancy?
For fun.
Most of us don't spell the word ecology with an OE anymore, but that's what they chose.
They're just trying to be like, they're just trying to get under your nerves, Kirk. They succeeded.
Yeah, trying to be special. So yeah, check that out. Tuned In, Plant Roots Use Sound to Locate Water. That was my only source for this week, was the actual paper itself. And that's it. That's another episode. Number 201 in the bag. I hope you are not also in the bag if you're driving right now. But if you're not, make responsible choices. You guys have a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach us by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can check out our website, strangebynaturepodcast.com, and you can support the show and get ad-free episodes at patreon.com/strangebynature. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.